This is a family destroyed by meningitis. See the boy in the blue with a Cheshire smile like a Cheshire cat? His life would never be the same after Easter weekend in the year 2000. Hi, it's Sandy Wiley. I want to talk about traumatic brain injury today. It's a very painful topic. And I wrote a lot about it in my book here. Life with My Schizophrenic Father. The book isn't all about just schizophrenia or just about my dad. A good part of it is. It's my autobiography, and it explains about what happened with, to Alex, about my borderline personality disorder, about my narcissistic mother. So it incorporates all of that. So you saw that picture I just showed you of Alex wearing the blue with the Cheshire cat smile. That was before he was stricken down. At 4 years old, he had the vocabulary of a 7-year-old, even though he was on the autistic spectrum, and he had an individual educational plan, an IEP. He was going to be mainstream. That means he wasn't going to have that IEP anymore because he was progressing so well. That's what the heartache of this is. He was going to go into a normal kindergarten. But that never happened. In fact, what happened nearly killed him and destroyed our lives. So you saw that picture. I want to show you this picture now. Do you see him there right next to me? Look at his face. See how vacant his face is? Look how vacant his face is. Like there's no expression. This is what meningitis does. It's worse than cancer. This is what happens when you get meningitis, if you get it as bad as my son. Not everyone, just like any other illness, right? Some people get cancer and they die, or, they have to lose their breasts. Other people get cancer and they take the tumor out and then they're cancer free and they don't lose any part of their body. I mean, there's all different stages. And as well, now see before meningitis, see the halo around him? That was him before meningitis. Happy, alive. It's just very painful. And then after meningitis, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. It's just so very, very hard for me to show you this. To share this with you is just painstaking. But I wanted to discuss a lot of things like vaccinations. You know, the ironic thing, he got meningitis in April of 2000, and the vaccine came out a couple of months later. So the vaccine for meningitis was not out when my son got stricken with meningitis. So my second son now, the baby in that first picture, now he got vaccinated against meningitis. A lot of people are pro and con vaccinations, but I think vaccinations work, and I'm for them. I wouldn't want to have to deal with extreme guilt if my son got meningitis and ended up like he is now with permanent brain damage, and the vaccine was out and offered to me and I said no, I don't want my son to get it, and then this happened. I would never ever be able to live with myself, ever. But the vaccine was not out then, was not out, available to the public. So it was not offered. So he had no protection against the meningitis that almost killed him. It left him with permanent brain damage, traumatic brain injury. That's what I want to talk about today. So he's right now the age of 27 years old, but mentally he's at the age of 2. He is an invalid. What I mean by invalid is he can't shower himself, he can't dress himself, he can't cross the street by himself. He can't go anywhere alone. He needs to be supervised. His language is extremely limited. Think of a 2-year-old that can say phrases like go out or me hungry or simple phrases like that. You cannot have a conversation with him. He doesn't understand simple concepts. I mean, he's very, very intellectually and emotionally impaired. And another thing about traumatic brain injury is lack of impulse control. They have none. This is true. It's that part of the brain that controls impulse is gone. He's on like tons and tons of Tegretol, seizure medications because he has a seizure disorder now because of the meningitis. It's just horrible. He can't live at home. He lives in a special group home for boys with problems like that. One of the boys has Down syndrome. There's all different kinds of group homes for adults that need, constant round-the-clock care because they don't have the mentality to take care of themselves. He'll never hold a job. He'll never drive a car. He don't have more than a preschool education. He'll never have a girlfriend. He'll never travel. He'll never see the world. He has no life. It's extremely sad. And it breaks up families. I had fears after that. Most people, parents that have children like this are divorced. A good, over 80%. That is a statistic, and we've seen it because he's lived in homes with other parents who have children like this, and a majority of them are divorced because, let's face it, marriage is hard enough when you have normal children. When you have someone severely sick, it's hard. He was in the hospital for 2 years. 2 years in the hospital. 2 weeks in Children's Hospital in Boston because he was in a coma. And then in a rehab hospital, Franciscan's Children's Hospital in Brighton, ironically, which is only 5 minutes away from where he lives now. All through this, my minister told me, you really need to see a psychologist. I never saw a psychologist before my late 30s. Never in my life. Never, ever went to therapy. Never. But because of this, and both my parents died back to back a few years later, after Alex was severely stricken with brain injury. They both my mother and father died 3 months apart. My father from cancer, severe cancer. I've seen cancer at its worst eat my father away into, I don't even want to go into it. I mean, he was like, if you see those videos or those pictures of Jewish people all grouped together, and they're just a skeleton. That's exactly how my father looked. He was a skeleton with his flesh just hanging. When a really obese person loses 200 pounds or something and their flesh hangs off their body because they lost all that weight. Yeah, that was my father. He was in so much pain. It was so much heartache. On top of my mother having just died of a heart attack, and I had to tell my father 2 things because he didn't believe doctors because he was schizophrenic. He thought doctors lied to him, but he believed me because I'm his daughter. I told him his wife died and that he had only a couple of months to live. I had to tell him this at the same time, give him 2 devastating realities. It was just torture. I mean, my life has been a living nightmare. No one has any idea about it. A living nightmare. And then my minister suggested, that I get help. Go see a psychologist. They'll help you. Guess what? Going to a psychologist made my life much, much worse. I was able to cope with all these problems. My parents' death, my son's brain damage, and I never, ever drank vodka. In fact, I might have drank once a week a beer or two with pizza. That's it. But going to a psychologist ruined my life. So I just got to put it out there. What happened? You know, in fact, I went to therapy one day with Dr. Richard Geist, and I brought a picture of Alex, how he looked in the hospital with tubes up his nose and everywhere, up his down there, because he couldn't pee on his own, he couldn't eat, tubes in his throat, he couldn't eat. I mean, tubes everywhere. And he was in a diaper at like 5 years old because of what happened. And you know what Dr. Geist said to me? He looked at the picture and he goes, "Aw, isn't that cute?" Imagine saying that to me? Showing him a picture of my son with tubes connected, tubes down his throat, he couldn't eat, tubes up his penis, tubes everywhere. And he says, "Isn't that cute?" There's something mentally wrong with that man. I mean, these shrinks, they're so messed up. They should be having their own psychologists. They should not be helping people, because they don't help people. They hurt people. They hurt people immensely. They ruin lives. I mean, there's so many other things that he did. I mean, so insensitive. Not 1 ounce of human compassion. It just blew my mind. It totally blew my mind. Another time I feel like a panic attack is coming on now. So I'm going to have to end this. I can't talk anymore about this, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened to my son and how, therapy ruined me. And now I got to stop, because I hope you buy the book, read more about it, the link below. I'm sorry I have to end this video, because now I'm going to have a serious panic attack.